you know how important it is to just have parents know how to bring up confident children. What do you measure? Let me say that. Like, how can you tell that this child is confident? Is it by how much they can probably perform at school, in school concerts, or stand in front of people and be able to just recite their poems, or what? Like, how do you measure confidence in children?
I think it still goes back to the child. What would the child want to achieve? So, for example, the child would like to dance in front of people, then they're not able to. This is not what would I want my child to achieve. It's not a you thing, it's more of a child thing. So whereby the child is like, I wish I could dance like this, or I'd like to do this. You know, whereby you ask them, would you want to do this? And they're like, yes, I would want. But I'm afraid I can't do it because I'm standing in front of many people. Or I'm scared, I don't feel good enough. Then that's the part you're like, okay, the confidence bit could be an issue. But I think we measure it the other way around, whereby, why is my child not running about like this other kid? Why is my child not talking in front of people? But do they want to? That's the question.
Because it's also like it boils down to the child's personality.
Yes.
Another thing that I would ask, how does, you know, like we like early on the show we spoke about 85% of adults having struggled with self-esteem, self-confidence issues at some point in their life. How does that affect now how you parent your child as a parent?
Okay, is it the good news or the bad news? We learn these things from 0 months. Like day one, once the child is born, this is when they start learning things like trust. So you find how the caregiver or the parent started perceiving this child, how they brought them up, is what's going to translate into their adulthood. So from about 0 to 15 years, this is where they're learning self-confidence, this is where they're learning to take initiative, this is when they're learning, I think 18 months to 3 years, this is when they're learning shame, guilt, doubt. So you find that if they're mishandled, even something simple as potty training, how do you, even when kids are running around and you're telling them, no, stop, don't do this, you know, you're trying to show them you can do it, you always get it wrong. So in all those processes is when people learn confidence. If you're not allowed to experiment, if you're not allowed to air out your opinion, if you're not guided the right way. So this is where you find, we call them ACEs most of the time, adverse childhood experiences. So whatever happens in between that period is what now is projected in our adulthood. So you're telling somebody, learn how to trust, and they're like, how? And I've been rejected all my life. You need to, in the workplace, you're telling somebody, you need to work this or do this. And then like everything I ever tried all my life, I was told I'm not good enough. I was compared to my cousins or my siblings. So it starts from 0 all the way to now as growing.
I really like that. Gideon and Cecilia, might you have any questions or comments about what she's talking about? Gideon?
Well, I think you have really pointed out something that is key in terms of, you know, the parenting, you know, just having, looking inside and not projecting that on your children in the way that you raise them up. Because if you don't deal up with your issues, then it's most likely able to pass on to your child. But knowing that, I think you can make your child's work easier by trying to avoid the same mistakes, so that they have to, as in your words, to reparent themselves in the future. So I think it's very, very key that we pay attention to that. But while doing that, I think it's also very important that we do not get to the point whereby we are afraid to parent our children because of our own mistakes.
Yes.
Because if there are certain things that you did or happened to you, and somehow you're so much afraid of them, it's likely that you may neglect that area of your life and not do it right by not insisting on certain things with your child. Or sometimes I found even parents who are afraid to do things or correct their kids because they're going to harm them. You know, so you go overboard. You overcompensate.
Yeah,
And so you find that you miss the point altogether, and exactly what you went through, your child is going to go through them because you did not know yourself enough to correct that.
You want
Is
to
that
talk about
correct?
that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
especially the overcompensation. I think
Yes.
that's what this generation is doing mostly, overcompensation.
Yes.
I grew up in poverty, I didn't have this, so I'm going to make sure
Yeah.
my kids will never lack this.
Yeah.
But then again, we lack to pause and see, yes, I lack this. What else did I have?
Yeah.
I had a parent to go back home to.
Ah.
I had a parent, maybe I had a community, I had this. So we tend to get one, miss out on the other. So it's a cycle. So maybe when the kids grow up, they'll be like, no, I want to go look for this money. I need to be there for the kids. And maybe it's a whole, so you find that it's a generation one trying to heal, then the other person is
It's a
trying to do
cycle.
it's a whole cycle.
Yeah.
And then you build, and what kind of adults are born out of, like being raised properly, or maybe being encouraged to be confident? Tell me about the adults that would come from such a home, and maybe from a home that doesn't really affirm the child, and what kind of adults does that create?
They say 50% of the population is secure, so means 50% of the population is okay. Just that maybe we overproject or overshow those who are not good enough, those who have trust issues, insecurities, etc. So you find that most people would be able to communicate. I know people say, especially when it comes to men, people say men can't communicate, but weirdly enough, 50% of the men are able to communicate or express their feelings. So you find that once you've grown up in a place whereby these values were instilled, you find there's a balance, work-life balance, parenting life balance. You're able to learn, go back to who am I? What do I want to achieve? Like go back to your journey map. This is what I'm looking into, and necessary, your journey doesn't have to be yours. If you're rushing ahead, that's okay, good, congratulations. And you're okay with that. Then goes back to adults who are not resentful, or what they'd say envious, because if somebody is sharing, yes, I bought a plane, you don't have to feel bad about it. It's their success. But now the other side of that is whereby the triggers. How did you grow up? If you tried sharing and saying these are good moments, maybe there's ridicule, somebody would try look at what you're not doing enough. If you try to talk and somebody's like, oh, you talk too much, and you're silenced. If you're trying to maybe explore and do something and somebody's like, do you have always to keep jumping? And then maybe it's the generation whereby parents were busy and you're like, I'm busy, I'll talk to you later. You see this, that, lack of
Actually,
achievement.
that generation, oh God, like, you're mentioning some things, I'm like, oh,